minutes. Great, we're here, we're live, virtually connecting from OER 17 in London, UK. Myself, Ken Bauer on the Mexican side, and Simon Enser joining us from France, I believe. And on site, we should have Maha Bailey, Autumn Keynes should be back there as well, being our on-site buddies. And I believe we have Diana Arce and Sheila MacNeill and Alec Tarkowski, if I'm correct in remembering. And they're all really crowded into the camera. It looks like a wonderful selfie. It's going to be one of those sessions today. So why don't you tell us what's going on, everyone on site?
Did you guys get a chance to listen to Diana yesterday?
To which? No, I didn't. I've been busy in all-day workshops. The only thing I saw from on site was your keynote, Maha.
Okay.
Sorry, but the good thing is it's mostly recorded and I can go back and see it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be checking it out later. Yeah, the last 3 days have been crazy for me.
Okay. So how's the conference been like for you?
For me?
Yeah. Because you're a performance artist and activist artist, right? And this is a kind of a different.
Oh yeah, this is a whole new world for me.
Yeah.
I mean, like the closest I, you know, there were some open education people at OK Fest when I did sort of the first big project of bringing artists into these kinds of spaces, and but it was definitely not just OER people. So that for me has been very interesting. Like really actually trying to learn exactly what OER is, because you know this isn't really my world. Yeah. I'm not even sure if I completely know exactly what it is. I think there's a lot of different facets and there's a lot of different things going on, but and the connecting string is education, but then like what that actually looks like is extremely diverse.
And I think that's the same for me. So, you know, it's my first VC connecting session, and I've really enjoyed the conference. And it's fantastic to be kind of sandwiched between these two fantastic ladies, because the opening and the closing of the conference last night, you know, it was fantastic. Maha got us off to a great start. Really, you know, you set the scene for us, got us thinking about diversity, about inclusion, in a way that certainly in my words, our worlds are different. So that was great. I try and be open in my practice, but I'm not a proper open educational researcher. I'm just kind of an everyday academic. So I try and do things as much as I can. So to get someone like you to talk about performance art and get me thinking about what we could do, we have an honorary artist, like we have an artist who has a fellowship at the university. I'm going to go and talk to him now and see him do things like that. So it's been great, you know, it's just been inspiring. And I think we're all trying to articulate what open education is. So it was great to have someone like you come in and actually give us some more ideas and make us all think about how we could use art in a different way and in a more imaginative way, creative way, and meaningful way, because I think everyone is struggling with the politics of open, but probably more so just now because of all the craziness in the
Yeah, definitely. And Alec, you must feel like a genius now that you've chosen this topic for the conference, and now everything's gone downhill since you chose that topic. But do you think it's gone as far as you would have liked it, or?
Well, I think maybe first I really want to say that the alternative topic was open party, and I like to think that in an alternative reality this conference is happening, and the idea was not to be foolish but to be just joyful, and I think it was still a good idea, you know, but it probably, the main reason I think we didn't push with it would require a different format, a change of format, really to play that out, and it would be a good event. But with politics of open, the one thing I kind of feel is that an event like this, everyone answers that question for themselves. You know, there's no like way to collectively decide on an issue, which is a bit of a pity for me, but still there's really no way to do it. So we're all just, I hope afterwards can collect some voices through, you know, like discussions here, and people will probably write about it, and some of it will be more ephemeral, and that's fine. But I think just by raising this issue, that's good, I hope, you know. And the one thing I feel is that I think conferences should be more than just people reporting about their projects, and it seemed to have worked to like raise the bar on that. So I'm happy.
I think it's been good because I think we all deal with politics every day, but probably politics with a small p. You know, in all our working situations, there's the politics of just human interaction. But now, you know, the politics with the capital P is, I think it's impinging on everybody's work in a way that it hasn't before. And I think those of us are privileged enough to have, you know, a nice academic, white Western life like me. I think we're feeling threatened in a way that we haven't before.
Yeah.
And that's
Congratulations.
Exactly.
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club.
And I could say that there are other parts of my life where it's like, but yeah, you know, and I think it's not just, you know, I think men are feeling, everyone's feeling that.
I mean,
That's good.
Simon and
Good.
Ken are both living outside their home countries.
Yeah.
So Simon is a British living in France, so he's threatened right now.
Yeah.
And Ken is Canadian living in Mexico. Not really threatened, but, you know, borderline threatened because you're sandwiching.
I'm not the norm, definitely. I wouldn't say threatened, and you're right, Maha. But yeah, I've lived 20-something years here, so this is my normal of not being normal within society.
So, you know, that's also the UK. I mean, yeah. But I think the conference has worked really well, and there has been a bit of a party as well.
Yes.
So, you know, it's,
Yeah.
Well, the people make the party always. It's going to happen. So what's the mix like in terms of newcomers or you know, new to OER at the event as opposed to just the same old gang?
No, I think there are some new faces here. I know that I was talking to Catherine Cronin last night, and she said that one of her sessions she had quite a lot of people, and it's the first time they had been to the conference.
Mm-hmm.
So she was really pleased with that. So I think there's a mix.
I think it's also quite international. So I've been to an alt conference before, and I was the only. There were like 2 other people who weren't white in the entire conference. And in this one, when you go into sessions, there are people from South America. There's quite a few people from South Africa.
Yeah.
There are people from all over Europe, right? It's not as English as I expected. And that's good.
It's someone from Uruguay.
So, I'm finding it. I don't know what it was like in the past, but this one seems diverse. You can already tell by the keynotes.
Yeah.
The keynote speakers, and even the panelists.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe been part of the conference's evolution because it's come out of the UK community, so it's expanded. So I think that it's great that it's actually growing quite quickly. I think to become it could be more international, and I think everyone wants that. But you know, it's great to see that happening, and hopefully next year it will be even more so.
I asked one of the people why she thinks it's so diverse, and she's like, nobody wants to go to the US anymore. So they end up coming here. Josie, come say hi. Josie's just
and Alec, how do you feel with the committee for the conference? Hello. Hey. Hey, Josie. What were your thoughts, Alec, on the committee structure of the internationals? Because I was on it, but I wasn't that active this year because the meetings just never hit for me. But I did work on the submissions last year and this year.
It was a good mix, and in general for me I felt that's a bit of my job to try to make it more international. Of course I didn't have too much, you know, like tools to do that. We were just counting on letting people know, but I think it worked pretty well. I don't know the numbers. I would also add there's, for instance, a big German group here, which is interesting because they're starting to have a lot happen in Germany, and I am happy they came as a group, because what I wanted to say, I think this community part is really important, and that's why this event is special for me, because I always feel it's community based, and probably because quite a fair number of people come every year, and I think that's really great. So I actually talk a lot about, I'm interested in a more, I always think European event, but probably international is the right word. I think European mainly because of cost, you know, it's in Europe kind of easier to bring people together. But my feeling is if we just did it from scratch and got this sort of wild mix of nationalities, that wouldn't work because there wouldn't be a community there. And if we could build on top of yours, that's the way to go, I think. But so take your community, try to somehow enlarge it.
Hi, Graham.
Graham has joined us. I think we have your audio, Graham.
I thought I would change to my laptop to see if the audio was any better on that.
It is.
Cool. I'm still waking up.
I just realised it's you, Graham. I'm like, oh, is that Graham?
Yes, it's me.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're from a different locale than yesterday. Yesterday it looked like from the office space.
No, I'm in the same room, just in a different position.
Ah, okay. There, it looked like kitchen cabinets or something behind you from that angle.
That's normally.
Excellent. There's the
Anyway,
keyboard.
looking forward to the sessions today. So I think they start in about 15 minutes.
You don't want to come for a minute? Say hi to Simon and Sork. Okay. I knew he was going to say no, but I just felt rude not inviting him. I'm not going to tell you who that was.
Well done, Ma.
I want to talk to you.
I was always trying to include people in the conversations. This is the way we roll. Did you have some thoughts, Simon, to add in as well?
Yeah, I was just interested about this idea of artists and the open, because I have a very good friend who is an artist locally, and I spend my time talking to him on Facebook Live because he spends his time painting from his studio live, and he's also an activist. So he works on helping kids in Madagascar, and his art is part of this work. So I don't know if there are other artists who are doing this sort of thing, but he's the only guy I know. Are there other people who are performing it out open in the wild?
Oh yeah, there's plenty. I gave a lot of examples yesterday. I'm just going to mention a few of them. So Conflict Kitchen is a big one out of Pittsburgh. One that I didn't mention, so everyone can go and look at the talk on YouTube and they can see what I talked about there, but there's several. So everyone knows the Yes Men. Well, there is a version of the Yes Men in Germany called Pain Collective, and they've been sort of hacking things for several years now, and have been doing amazing campaigns, in support of refugees, in support of different projects that are going on. I was involved with one of the pieces that they actually put together, where I had to pretend to be the secretary of the Office of the Interior and give awards to people who helped refugees cross borders illegally. And so there's Pain Collective, there's Steve Lambert, who's from Center for Artistic Activism. All of his work is extremely political. Yeah, there's kind of a long list. There's a big trend of people making this kind of work, and like one of the great places where you can find them is there's a website called Actipedia. It's called actipedia.org, and it's basically a wiki, but it's a place where anyone who's doing sort of political artistic action can put their work up. So that's a great place to look at to see if there's any great work. There's a book that was put out by Nito Thompson called The Interventionists, and this book also has a lot of great examples of different artists who are working politically, whose activist work is like centered. The activist work is the center of the art making. It's not like a side track. It's not like a side thing added on into the art. One of my favorites is Reverend Billy. He runs Reverend Billy in the Nonstop Shopping Choir. And they've done like big performance actions against BP. They've done big performance actions against banks. Reverend Billy dresses like a reverend, and he has this choir that goes with him everywhere. And they basically, I think at one point, they tried to, what is it, like when you try to like make the devil go away? It's like they kind of like performed. They did this thing where they were performing exorcisms on different spaces to try to remove the evil from corporations. Very, very powerful work when you look. It's fun. I prefer things that have a tinge of humor. So for me, Reverend Billy is one of the amazing artists working in this area. Yeah, I mean, there's an entire, so in the art world, most of the time this is referred to as social practice. Most people who make this kind of work will not agree with the terminology, but the theorists and the art historians are calling us this. We don't really support it.
What would you like to be called?
I would say that I'm an artistic activist, or or you know, I kind of hate the word artivism, but it's closer.
Oh, that's quite nice.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm not so sure how I feel about it. I always feel weird when they put words together. Yeah, it sounds too close to archivist. And or a creative activist. I mean, because for me, it's about really incorporating the two practices together.
And I like creative activist because it makes it feel like people like us who aren't artists could do it.
Yeah, and you can't.
Because when you put the word artist in it, it sounds like, oh, I'll have to ask Diana to do it for me. When you call it creative activism, it sounds like I can learn from you to be creative in the way I do my activism. It sounds
no, absolutely, and I think there's definitely. I mean, like I've led workshops on like teaching people creative activism, and Center for Artistic Activism, based in New York, they do this worldwide as well. And this is definitely something you can teach people. But then you have the conundrum of, do you have time? Among all the other things that you're also doing, do you have time to also fulfill this role of being the creative activist? So I think it's important. I think it's great for people to participate in these workshops and take these workshops and have a better understanding of how it functions, and then to also try to incorporate it into the practices they're already participating in. But then when you have something big and you don't have time, then you come to us, and then we can take this like to where it needs to go for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So like a marketing agency for activist purposes.
Yeah, and this is the thing is like if you think about especially more and more like if you're looking at what people are doing. I mean, Trump is a performance artist. He's a very annoying performance artist, but he is a whiz at it. He's fantastic. And
that's why we keep watching him even though it annoys
exactly.
us, right? Like we should reach a stage where we can't watch him anymore. But
we should, but we can't because it's super entertaining, and somehow people get drawn to this, right? And so there are different things that we can learn. And my thing is, I'm just like, there's already artists who are thinking about this and thinking about these kinds of structures and how to like utilize these structures in order to get people to think differently about things. So, you know, maybe like if everyone would hire like a creative activist strategist, you know, we can move things a lot more further. Because we're probably just as interesting or just as creative as political strategists are, and we actually have a moral.
Yeah.
We have morals. But yeah, there's plenty of artists who do this kind of work. Another place to look on the AWAC website, artistswac.org, artists with an S.
Yeah, in like 2 minutes.
Josh Begley, he works for The Intercept now, but he does amazing work using digital technologies. He made an app called Drone Stream, which will give you push notifications of drone strikes from the United States.
Oh, wow.
So that's the only push notifications I have on my phone. Ingrid Burrington, I mean, they just actually did a project together very recently. Ingrid Burrington does a lot of work with technology. She does great work.
I can add one name. It's not very related to open education. It's James Birdle. Do you know him?
I love him.
He's a very thoughtful person.
Did you see his smart car?
No. So, the new thing, yes.
Yeah, the new one where he like a self-driving car. He trapped a self-driving car with salt.
Yeah, that was excellent.
Yeah, these people all know each other too. So Ingrid Burrington, Jeff Begley, and James Bridle are all friends.
If I have to go in a moment, I just wanted to make one comment. For me, all this talk about the importance of art kind of fits with a sort of theme I see very strongly at this event, and also others related to the whole thing of OER. And I'm a very licenses person. I come from Creative Commons. I'm not even an educator. And I think if I was blunt, I would say we see a failure of an approach where we think activism is about licensing. And it made sense for a while. And there was a promise there. There was a promise that by thinking how things are shared, even at legal level, you're changing the world. I still think it makes sense, but it's an extremely difficult sell. And there's some sentiment here that even the name of this conference is a bit weird, maybe outdated, and why do we still call it resources? And what's that, you know? And that's why I think we yearn to have an artist tell us there's a different way to do it, or everyone's very inspired. I was in a small session with Brian Mathers, who showed how visually he encourages people to collaborate and think about what they do. And for me, this is all looking how do we switch our when Maha talks so much about practices, and my main thought was how much time they take. You know, the when you step out of just resources to communities, it's time consuming, right?
But I think that's what I've come away with as well. Is I think what we're all struggling with, it goes back to this articulation thing, and it's how we evaluate. And maybe we were talking about, I think it was Maha, we were talking about different languages we use to communicate open with the rest of the world, you know, with people not in our education bubble. And that's why we do need that outside voices. We need people like you, Dan, to come in and actually look at something, and you can see something and actually help us make sense of what we're doing so that we can share it with other people so people understand it.
Yeah.
And we need that. And maybe that's what we should be thinking about. Is obviously we need to have our research as well, but actually an evaluation, you know, as part of that, a project, if we have that kind of creative, you know, extend that to our community. I think that would be great. Anyway, I think we're all going to have to go.
Yeah.
Great. I'll say it since Simon said it in the chat that this is a breath of fresh air. Just lovely to hear your voice there, Deanna.
Great.
Thank you so much.
And so it looks and sounds like you're all wrapping up. So go ahead and wrap it up, and I'll do some post-show here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Adam.
See you.
Great. Well, I'll shout out to Chuck Pearson as well, because he says he's enjoying us live while he's getting ready for work, and he couldn't jump in. Trying to grok the conversation in the middle of jumping into it, as Graham did as well here.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this, gent? What was going through? I like Simon said here in the side chat, what a breath of fresh air. It's wonderful to hear different voices coming into our conversations.
Absolutely.
Anything else, guys? I'm brain dead here.
I think the word open in terms of education, I think often has been open between educators in closed systems.
Yeah.
Rather than really being open. And I think that we need to be serious about being open, which means taking the time to have conversations with people who are not anything to do with education.
Right. I think we need to open up that. And that reminds me of I first got visibility. This conference is the first talk I saw was Sheila's talk about open washing. And so the use of the word open is always really charged.
For sure.
In our different communities as well.
So yeah, maybe they have to go back to the drawing board and openly get rid of open education resources and think of something else.
Yeah, that resources word is just kind of loaded, as opposed to just things or practices. And all
I mean, I blogged on this yesterday because it was just screaming at me.
Oh, wonderful. I'm going to have to go.
I just couldn't cope with this word resource a moment longer.
It just seems so stodgy sometimes.
Well, I honestly think that therein lies the problem, because it's all around being instrumental to something or to somebody.
Right. And when I run into educators, they tend to think of it, well, it needs to be in a certain packaged format. And like, no. No. So, yeah, I'm looking forward. I'll have to go and read that today, Simon. I'm so behind on my blog RSS feeds.
Yes. Simon, have you tweeted out a link to that blog post?
Yeah, it's in the OER stream, but I can tweet it to you.
Right. I've probably seen it already, but I shall go back and check again. But I'm going to disappear.
Yeah, okay.
Ready for the first session.
All right. Thank you, Graham.
Thanks very much.
At least I know this works better on this laptop, so I shall join future sessions using this.
Wonderful. Thank you, Graham.
Yeah.
Have an excellent day.
Right. See ya.
And I guess we'll wrap up, Simon, before we hit the stop broadcast button. And mentioning your blog, I just love these conferences because I keep meeting. I've met a few people in my limited exposure to this event. I've had some good side conversations with people I didn't really talk to before. So
yeah, I think it's really an excuse to sort of meet people and to just feel part of something wider. And I think that's I enjoy that.
Myself
I've
as
got
well.
positive vibes from this one here.
Yeah, it's different. It's interesting. Yesterday there was this full house when Alan was hosting the session yesterday morning. Later in the morning, it was, well, 3.5 hours later than it is now, or 4 hours the start time. So I think it got a bigger push of audience. And we were talking about how there was a couple people. There was someone in the library, and I can't remember where it is right now. Dina, I believe. And she was on my session as well, and she had no microphone, but she was in a library, so she had her audio headphones on, and she couldn't talk because she couldn't be loud, but she was joining in on the text side. And for this virtually connecting community, there's all sorts of ways of interacting or just watching it later. We have 3 viewers now. I don't know who they are. One was probably Chuck, and there's just different ways of consuming and contributing to this content.
No, I think
wonderful.
I think it's very important that we sort of we're modeling something which is very simple, but it's a state of mind which is not that simple.
Right.
Because people just don't often think in terms of even going outside their classroom often.
Yeah, and that gets back to this wonderful pre-show conversation we had earlier about that same topic, and trying to get our educators in our own institutions, really reaching out and seeing that those possibilities of connecting with others outside their day-to-day.
I think the other thing is that we have to sort of go back a long way and sort of forget, in a sense, the technology, to say that this enables us to be on the edge, to be in a crossroads, which other people will not have the same resources or the same desire to be in these sort of spaces. And I don't think they should, or we should necessarily encourage them unless they want to be. But I think that we have a role, having ended up in these spaces for whatever reason.
Right, and
witness.
And there'll be people who will run across this video later, and they'll feel involved, or they'll feel inspired. I know I did when I was first kind of on the other side of that edge, watching a lot of these conversations from the outside.
Yeah,
and
because they're real. I think that the big advantage of them is they are real conversations. They're not something which is scripted to some market and with anything in particular to sell. And I think that that's something which is, again, refreshing.
Yeah, and in some way we're bringing that. For me, the conferences are always about what happens in the hallway and not inside the sessions. And in many ways, for the conference events, we're bringing that outside. Yeah,
and I think the other thing is that in terms of equity, I know from my own context that it's impossible for me. It would have been impossible for me to actually engage in research if I hadn't had these sort of opportunities. Just impossible.
Right.
So even from a professional point of view, this has enabled me to grow in all sorts of ways.
Oh, and that's an excellent point. There's so many of us academics that were in institutions that our focus is teaching, and then we don't get that that research vibe of a day-to-day lab situation, department situation where everybody's doing research, and that's the core when I was in grad school, but in my institution it's not. And so when I was trying to finish my PhD, it was really frustrating. I never did, but I didn't have that ambience around me all the time. And in retrospect, if I had this community when I was trying to finish my dissertation, maybe I would have.
Yeah. And I think that's also, I think the questions that we're asking at the moment are the essential questions. That's to say that, okay, so we can do all of this stuff. We're having these sort of conversations. So what does it mean? Because it's the same system. It's the same tech. It's the same what's the word? Lens that we're looking through, and it's affecting all of us. And we have to deal with it together. And I think that therein lies my interest as a historian. We're seeing the world in a very different way.
Oh, I think so. All right, sir. Well, I will wrap up, Simon, and I'll jump back into bed for a couple of hours before I get up and raise the kids. But it was wonderful speaking with you again.
Well, sleep well. Yeah.
I'll hit the podcast button here.